We're joined today by Chef John Bonnell. He's the owner of Bonnell's Fine Texas Cuisine in Fort Worth, and we're glad to have you here. Chef Dina Peterson is from the Modern Cafe at the Modern Art Museum. Some of you all may have seen the cafe there if you visited the museum or actually gone to the cafe. I appreciate both of them coming, but let me tell you why they're the people we invited. Because when we went to the Farmers Market Association and we said, what chefs actually walk the talk and use the produce that you guys raise? And they said John Bonnell and Dina Peterson. So I appreciate the fact that they got on board way before we decided in Tarrant County to make it a cool thing to do, which is to live a more colorful life. So we're going to have some food demonstrations, and John's going to start off with the first one. He's got a mic, and he's going to tell you what he's doing. You can scoot up some so that you could actually see what he's doing here, but be careful because there are some cords and things going across the floor here. So John, take it away.
Thank you. How are y'all doing today? Good. I know a lot of people say they don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. It's kind of hard. I don't really know how to cook much, with everything. Cooking fresh does not have to be complicated. It can be some of the simplest cooking in the world. If you got great ingredients, you don't need to mess with them much. They already taste great. This is one of my favorite dishes to make at home. I have a wife and a 2-year-old, and usually I like to make stuff that's really fast and doesn't require a lot of cleanup. One pan, 5-minute dish, that's my kind of stuff. We're going to do a pasta, angel hair pasta with a fresh tomato and garlic sauce with just a little bit of basil. I'm using some extra virgin olive oil. And we'll get a little bit of garlic started in a pan here. You can start with a pan that's not very hot, a little bit of a cool pan. Get some garlic going. All you want it to do is start to sizzle in there a little bit. You're going to smell this in about 2 seconds. Anytime you get garlic going in the house, everybody on the whole block gets hungry. I mean, just sauteing garlic alone is enough to get people excited. And then we're going to take some beautiful tomatoes here. If you've never had a Scott Farm tomato, they are tremendous. This is the kind of produce that only makes one trip in one truck. This is not the stuff that went to 4 different brokers before you got to it. Scott Farms is one of my favorite guys to use. All we need to do is just take a little bit of the core out of these tomatoes. They're wafting the garlic smells over, right? And all we're going to do to make this fresh tomato sauce is take these tomatoes with your hands and just tear them apart, drop them in there. I'm going to use about 4 of these local tomatoes here. And let these guys start to soften up. These are the tomatoes you need to use that are really ripe, not the rock-hard Romas you get in the middle of winter, but something that's really ripe, nice and juicy. Squeeze all the juices in there. These are the best tools you got. Just use your hands. Again, not too complicated, right? Even the kids can get involved in this one. Kind of fun to let the kids squeeze the tomatoes into a bowl before you put it into a pan. Fun dish to do here. Make sure you tear them up into some small pieces. And again, I'm not taking the peels, the skins, anything off of this. There's tons of fiber. Anything that was in this tomato to begin with is going to be in the sauce at the end. And move this over a little bit so everybody can see real well. You doing okay? Add 1 more tomato. We're going to keep this simmering for just a little while. And what you want to do is cook these tomatoes until they've softened. They'll start giving off a tremendous amount of their own liquid, their own juices, and that's what makes the sauce for this pasta. Again, this really is a 5-minute dish, start to finish. Anybody timing me? So, what you're going to notice is that as this becomes a sauce, as it starts to thicken up a little bit. And one thing that helps with that, and that helps with flavor, and to bring out some of the flavors, is a little bit of salt. So I'm going to use a kosher salt or a sea salt. I like those better than the granulated iodized stuff. They just have a more natural flavor. Kosher salt is also a little less salty. So you've got a little more leeway when you're using it. You can add a little bit, taste, add a little more. If you make this dish, we got some fresh cracked pepper here too. Now, if you make this dish and at the end you go and you taste it and you say, it seems a little bland. There's something missing. Almost guarantee you didn't use enough salt or you forgot the salt altogether. It just brings out all the natural flavors of everything here. All we're going to do, once we get these guys to soften up, now in the winter, if you can't find great tomatoes, usually you can. A lot of guys have hot houses. They're doing fresh tomatoes all year. But if you can't, a canned tomato is not such a bad product. You can still get some great flavor, really nice stuff out of good organic canned tomatoes. But this dish, to me, is much, much better when you can celebrate the beauty of a perfectly ripe, in-season local tomato. And we're going to add a little bit of basil also. I just want to tear it up. We don't want to go crazy and, get out the knife and make the chiffonade. Nothing too complicated. Tear up some leaves. I bet some of you have basil growing in your yard and don't even know it. When we moved into a new house, I got out a weed eater and started going along the fence, and I went, wait a second, I'm cutting down half an acre of basil back here. This stuff grows so easily, you can't stop it from growing once you get it started. All right, so we got a little bit of basil. So far, everybody think they can handle this one? Not too complicated? It's starting to smell like garlic and basil all over the room now. A little salt and pepper. I add just a squeeze of lime juice just to give a little more acidity to this one. After that, all we're going to do is add some cooked angel hair pasta. One of the nice things about angel hair, you can use any pasta you want. They're named for shapes. One of the things I like about angel hair is it cooks very, very quickly. Just a couple of minutes in simmering salted water and angel hair is ready to go. We're going to add some pasta on top of this. One I'm trying to get away there. And all we want to do is give this about a minute inside the sauce and let the pasta start soaking up all these great juices. Get it all down in there. Get the tomatoes all over the top of it. Let it simmer for just a minute or so. You've got nothing but fresh, bright, slightly acidic, clean flavors. And then when we're done, this goes right into our bowl. It's an easy one to put right in the middle of the table. Serve it family style. All those beautiful, lightly crushed tomatoes right on top. I'll stop burning my arm, turn that off. I like to clean up the edges of the dish. And we're just going to garnish this with a little more fresh basil. We'll just add one of those tops right there. Add a little beautiful fresh basil right in the middle of that one. Now, for a little flavor, you could use a touch of, Parmesan cheese if that helps. But right here is one of the healthiest, easiest 5-minute dishes I can possibly show you how to make. Thank you.
The neat thing about that, too, is the fact that you saw he didn't even use a knife except to core the tomatoes. So that can be, that's all he brought. Okay, so that's a great family opportunity there, like he mentioned.
I have to say, I am a little jealous. Dina over here brought a Porsche, not the car, a Porsche
But a big
design
knife, huh?
I'm totally jealous of what you brought over here. I brought that.
Well, thank you so much, and that's so healthy, easy to make. We're going to be passing a few samples through the area as we progress here, and now Dina's going to share one of her recipes with us.
Good morning. Today I'm going to show you how to make Texas caviar. This is a dish that I learned from my grandmother, and pretty much every Sunday was spent at Grandma's house, and she would make Sunday dinner, and it usually never included meat, or if it did, it might have just been a touch of ham or a touch of bacon in some of the dishes. But right now, at this time of summer, I don't like to turn on my stove or my oven. My air conditioner is just churning and churning, trying to get under 85 degrees in my house. So I chose a couple of dishes that don't require any cooking. It does it does take a little bit of knife work, but super easy to throw together. It doesn't really take much skill at all. You start out with black-eyed peas, which you can get at the farmer's market right now. Some of the farmers go ahead and shell them for you. Some of them sell them in bushels that are not shelled yet. But what a great time to have your family or your friends over and sit out on the patio with a glass of wine or something and just shell black-eyed peas for a couple of hours. But for ease, you can use canned or you can use frozen. But you want cooked black-eyed peas. And then you add tomatoes, which these are, again, Scott Farm tomatoes. They're best tomatoes in town that I've found. So super ripe. As soon as I walked in and I saw that tomato, I was like, that's a Scott Farms tomato, isn't it? I recognized it.
I don't even see a label, but you guys know that. That's pretty good.
And then I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. You can smash it through a little garlic machine, or you can, just chop it up, or you can use the little jarred stuff. I have a red bell pepper, which you can use red, green, yellow, purple, orange. There's so many colors of bell pepper these days that I just like to use them all because it just makes everything look sort of like a fiesta. And then celery. And red onion. You can use yellow onion, white onion, red onion, green onion. Doesn't really matter. I like the flavor of purple onion because It just, I don't know, raw, I think it's the greatest onion. And then my recipe calls for 1 to 2 jalapenos. Honestly, I chopped these last night and my fingers are still burning. So I'm gonna take it easy on you and maybe use half a jalapeno because these suckers are hot. You toss that all together, and then you're gonna want to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Anytime I'm doing a vinaigrette of any sort, I always like to put the salt in first, because if you mix salt and oil, it takes forever for it to dissolve because it gets wrapped up in the oil and never gets any moisture to it. So I'm putting a healthy dose of salt and pepper on this entire thing. And then I use red wine vinegar. You can use white wine vinegar, cider vinegar, just plain white vinegar. I wouldn't really suggest balsamic. I think that would just be too heavy of a flavor. Just throw some vinegar on there and a little bit of oil. I'm using canola. I like lighter flavored oils in things like this. You can use olive oil, but I think if you use an extra virgin, it would be a little bit too heavy for this dish. But if you use olive oil, you can use the light, which of course doesn't mean low fat, it just means a lighter flavor. And there's so many things that you can use this. It's almost like a pico de gallo, or you can eat it with chips. Right here, I'm going to spoon it over. I have just 4 ounces of grilled steak and lettuces, and you can just make an entire salad out of this, and you have a whole meal that it's mostly vegetables and just a tiny bit of meat. Or you can, again, eat it with celery sticks or chips, and I'm a sucker for any tortilla of any kind, so if you put it in a tortilla, I'll eat it. So it can be a party dip, or it can be an accompaniment to any entree. You can put it over grilled fish, grilled chicken, grilled beef, pork. Goes well with all of them.
Thank you, Tina. That's great. And once again, after the chopping is done, any of the kids can just dump all that together and stir it up. So that's really good and easy. Once again, that was one of the things that we ask, is that we want to always just come up with the items that don't take a lot of time, and also are things that you can get easily. Because I love watching the Food Network, but I hate it when they put something on there, an ingredient I gotta buy. Yeah, and I'm like, where do you even buy that? And then what do you do with the other pound of it when you had to buy a little bit, so.
Fresh lychee nut cocktail.
Right.